It's Sunday, November 12th, and this morning I want to talk to you about a situation that was brought to my attention by one of my regular viewers. Now, Fred is his name, and he's a very intelligent man, a graduate of CCNY. And this story deals with colleges and funding. So let me get right to it. A report was recently issued that said that U.S. universities, including Cornell, Harvard, and MIT, and other high-quality schools, and schools that are not considered so high quality, raked in over $13 billion in undocumented contributions from foreign donors. That's what this report cited. And the report is citing not that this is illegal, but the fact that these universities were getting this money and they weren't reporting it is what the problem is. And it required institutions of higher education that receive federal financial assistance to disclose that semi-annually to the U.S. Department of Education. And apparently there are many colleges around the country that have received this money and they haven't been reporting it. So if they get money from foreign sources, and those amounts of money are valued at $250,000 or more in a calendar year, it's required that the institutions report the information when that money was owned or controlled by a foreign source. And over 30 years ago, Congress enacted these requirements to promote public transparency about the role of foreign funding in U.S. higher education. So all of these schools have not followed that. And the question becomes why? And it's very important that we understand who is sending this money to us, to those institutions. Because remember, institutions can be critically affected by the donor population. So it behooves them to be reporting it. And maybe they don't want to report it because maybe they're getting money from countries that are enemies, political enemies of the United States. And maybe they're required to do certain things at these universities in order to continue getting these contributions. And I'm not saying that any of this is actually what happened, but the fact that they didn't report this information leaves them suspect to the fact that these countries, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, China, and the United Arab Emirates, could have influence over the education of our young, undue influence. Among the culprits, the colleges that received this money, Carnegie Mellon got the most at $1.47 billion, and Cornell scooped up $1.29 billion, and Harvard got $894 million, and MIT got $859 million. So we're not talking about chump change here. We're talking about significant amounts of money. Qatar itself gave $2.7 billion, and England gave $1.4 billion. Those are the number one and number two country contributors. $1.2 billion came from China, and $1.1 billion came from Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates gave $431 million. So we're not talking about small amounts of money. Some of that money, I imagine you could fund the school for a year. So based upon the amounts of money that were given, you can understand why the authors of the report have a conclusion that claims there's a sobering possibility that international actors are using undisclosed channels, sending money to college campuses for the purpose, the harmful purpose, to destroy the foundations of our democracy, to create an atmosphere that leads to things like antisemitism. So they're looking at this from the political view, that these institutions, these countries that are sending this money, can affect the way our students are being taught by members of the universities that are receiving this money. Great example of what happens to this money. Cornell University, which has received a lot of funding, more than $1.3 billion, opened a medical school in Qatar, which graduated more than 500 students from the Middle East and Asia and other places out there. And one of those students was working at Lenox Hill Hospital, and she made vicious anti-Semitic remarks while working in the emergency room there, and they fired her. And Cornell, which I am sure heard about the firing of this emergency room doctor, has said, we're proud of this collaboration that is helping to train much-needed doctors to support patient care, biomedical research, and overall quality of life. Well, if Cornell can come out with a statement like that, they ought to be ashamed of themselves for allowing a medical student of theirs to be trained and practicing in the United States as a vicious anti-Semite. So looking at this story now, I hold Cornell responsible for the actions of that lady. Well, if you look at this, one could say that getting this money is doing more damage than good. So the bottom line here is that 203 colleges withheld the information about the millions of dollars that they received. And while not every country was a dictatorship or an authoritarian country, Canada, Japan, Germany, and India and Switzerland also gave money to the United States college system. So the report has clearly said there's been an erosion of democratic norms on campuses, and that a massive influx of foreign concealed donations to American institutions of higher learning, much of it from dictatorships, and with a lot of support from Middle Eastern sources, reflects or supports heightened levels of intolerance towards the Jew and towards free expression and open inquiry. That's the conclusion that was drawn by the people who went through this report and through the monies that were donated to these colleges. So when you look at this, you could believe that the actions taken by the higher authorities at universities, those who might be able to control the student body to act like civilized people, has been thwarted by the fact that they have gotten so much money from these dictatorships. Is it possible that the highest level in all higher learning institutions is corrupt and fanning the flames of anti-Semitism because of foreign dollars coming into the university? We can't overlook that premise. It's very interesting, this entire business of who's giving money to colleges and not reporting that they're getting those funds. So I'll leave you with that this morning. Have a great day. Bye.